fruitful time of sharing. It sounded like it. We've got some really good. Nobody was screaming and yelling. That was really good. Didn't hear anybody angry even. That's wonderful. Next thing we're going to share is we need each other. We need each other. The Amplified Bible translation of 1 Corinthians 11 through 12 is as close to the Greek as we can express in English. It refers directly back to the pre-fall state to show God's intention for us to be fully dependent on each other as husbands and wives. Nevertheless, the woman is not independent of the man, nor is man independent of woman. For as the woman originates from the man, so also man is born through the woman. And all things, whether male or female, originate from God as their creator. Genesis 1:31 says, "And let them rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the sky, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." God made Adam and Eve to be co-rulers of the earth. Co-rulers. They were the king and queen, if you want. Some people don't like that, but that's kind of the idea, that they were the rulers like the king and queen over the whole world, and they were equal in this dominion. If you want to put that on your sheet there, they were equal in this dominion. Psalm 8:3-8 says, "When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars which you have ordained, what is man that you take thought of him, and the son of man that you care for him? Yet you have made him a little lower than God, and you crown him with glory and majesty. You make him to rule over the works of your hands. You have put all things under his feet, all sheep and oxen, and also the beasts of the field, the birds of heaven, and the fish of the sea, whatever passes through the paths of the sea." One of the problems that we have in biblical interpretation, it's really crucial for us to get this and understand it. Like, you may think that you have heard a teaching that was straight out of the Bible, but there are some things you always need to consider. You always need to consider what the cultural influences are, that when you read certain words, you read them and you can apply cultural attitudes to them. You can apply cultural thoughts to them. And here's one of those places where that might happen. We know from Genesis chapter 1 that God placed a man and a woman in the place of authority. And yet when we read Psalm 1 or Psalm 8, it doesn't say man and woman, it says man, right? And so it's easy within a kind of a culture that we might have called patriarchal or male-centered, it's easy to look at that passage and say, well, that's only talking about men. You understand what I'm saying? It's only talking about guys. It's just guys, that's all. But he's referring back to when God said, he made man in his own image, and he gave them, male and female, rulership over the works of his hands. So there are times when in the scripture you read man and it does mean, in fact, a guy. Sometimes you read man and it might mean both male and female. Typically, if it's talking about females alone, it will use a word just for a female. But man can be both female and male in it. Better translation in those contexts would be human. But we don't typically use that language today. But that's the language. So everything that's said in here is talking about humans, male and female. We were given in the beginning co-rulership. In the beginning, God created men and women to be equal in every way, equally honored, equally loved, equally cared for. There wasn't any servitude in the first couple's relationship. Now, when I say servitude, I hope you understand that there's a difference between servitude and serving. the difference between servitude and serving is what you think about yourself and what others think about you. So if you see yourself as no one's slave, but you have the opportunity to serve someone else, then that would be a biblical way of looking at your life. When you see yourself as someone's property, when you see yourself as someone owns you, and that's how you see yourself, and other people see you as being someone that is owned, that they own, then that's servitude. Can you understand the difference? Like, if you think in your heart that you are not a slave, you are not a possession of someone else, that you are created in the image of God, that God views you as an individual, and you don't belong to anybody but God as ownership, that only God owns you, then, and you decide you want to serve someone for Christ's sake, then that's a very different understanding. That's serving. I make a choice to serve someone else, not because I'm their slave, not because I'm owned by them, not because they require it of me and I have to because I believe myself to be a slave. If we believe, however, that we are somebody's property, that we are owned by somebody, if we believe that they are, and they believe that, then that creates a relationship of servitude. And that's the difference. It's not that we don't serve. We absolutely serve. We serve each other. Carie and I serve each other all the time. The scripture says, work hard to outdo one another, to serve one another. It's not about that, well, you know, I'm the guy here and you serve me. Or she says, like, it's getting to be more and more like that in culture. Well, I'm the woman here, you serve me. No, it's we serve each other because I don't own her, and she doesn't own me. I do not own her, and she does not own me. It's really crucial that we understand that marriage is not a covenant of ownership. I don't own Carie. I get the privilege of sharing my life with her, but I don't own her, and she doesn't own me. We belong to God. We do not belong to each other in the sense of ownership, and yet we totally belong to each other because we give our lives to each other and we serve each other, but it's not out of servitude. It's really critical, really critical. I hope you understand what I'm saying. If you don't, then ask some questions in Jesus. Just a second. They were co-leaders of the earth. They shared mutual responsibility and authority in everything that had to do with their lives. Their unity was based on a full sharing of their given authority over the earth and all of it. In Jesus, this is restored. As a married couple, we have equal authority with God, with the world, with our relationships outside of our marriage, with each other, and in the home created by our union. We'll cover the passages that seem to say differently in future sessions. So, a little bit of discussion again. Why is the principle of equal rulership or authority given to the first couple so important? Just have a chance to just chat with each other on that one.